Am I? Yep. Okay. Hi, John. We're just going to go? Okay. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining for today's Storm Update. I'm Heather Fairbairn, and I'll be your moderator for today's briefing. Today we are joined by the Honourable Tim Houston, Premier of Nova Scotia. We'll have remarks as well from Mark Peachey, Chief Engineer with Nova Scotia's Public Works Department. And as well, we'll have remarks from Paul Mason, Executive Director of Nova Scotia's Emergency Management Office. Also joining us for the media Q&A portion of today's update, we'll be joined by Suzanne Lay, Executive Director of Community Services, Matt Drover, Storm Lead for Nova Scotia Power, Keith MacDonald, CAO of the Municipality of the County of Inverness, John MacKinnon, Deputy Chief Administrative Officer for Cape Breton Regional Municipality, Wayne MacDonald, Director of Engineering, Cape Breton Regional Municipality, Steve Marcellus, Emergency Management Coordinator, Richmond County, and Bruce Morrison, Warden, Victoria County. And with that, allow me to turn things over to the Premier. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Heather. Good afternoon, everyone. Well, we got walloped with snow over the last few days for sure. We've done these briefings now through initial floods, a hurricane, incredible fires with so much damage and destruction, and then, of course, more devastating floods where we experienced a tragic loss of life. And now we sit here today talking about a historic snowstorm. We've had more than our fair share in this province for sure, but I assure you, we will dig out. It will take time, but we will dig out. But it's certainly been a historic snow event. It's hard to get the exact estimates of exactly how much snow has fallen, but we're certainly hearing reports of over 100 centimeters in some areas. And my friend Albert said he remembers one storm in the 50s and one in the 60s that may have been worse, but since then this is definitely the biggest. And the pictures you may have seen, like the picture of Kent Peters and Albert Bridge, those are like the iconic pictures that we would see from days gone by. But they're today. This is a particularly awful time to be without power, and we do have about 4,500 Nova Scotians without power at the moment. So I know Matt from Nova Scotia Power will give an update on that, but I do want you to know that there are somewhere in the range of 100 crews that are working hard to get you your power back. We know that's a real need right now. In the meantime, if you're using a generator, please keep it outside. Do not run your generator inside. That's extremely dangerous. Keep your generators outside. We have also seen that closer to the coast, the snow is heavier and wetter, whereas a little bit more inland, it's a little drier, which contributes to more blowing and more drifting, and certainly had some visibility issues over the weekend. But whether wetter or drier, at these volumes of snow, it is heavy. So please be very careful. If you can help a friend or a neighbor dig out, please do. But be careful not to overdo it. It's dangerous as well. To all those who haven't seen a plow yet or are wondering when their road will be cleared, I've asked Public Works to be very frank and honest about how long it will take. It will take time to get to all the roads. There's just no question about that. During more typical snowstorms, there's a kind of a normal plow route, a route that the plows follow. But as we work through this cleanup, there are efforts to prioritize routes for health and safety reasons. So where necessary and where possible, that will certainly happen. The province is moving equipment from other parts of the province to the areas that are in most of need. Throughout the weekend, we've been moving gear from the western zone to Pictou, Antigonish, Guysborough counties, and of course into Cape Breton as well. Please know that the province is doing everything possible to get folks cleared out as quickly as possible. Any plows and personnel that aren't needed with any urgency in another part of the province are being moved to the most impacted areas. That is happening. It started early on the weekend, and it will continue. There's a real sense of urgency from the teams to get you plowed out. We're also working with New Brunswick and PEI to see what they may be able to do to help us out. And yesterday, on the weekend, we wrote to the federal government asking for any available heavy equipment to help move snow, portable fuel storage that can be transported to replenish snow removing gear on site, and also any air transport that might be available to assist with the delivery of critical supplies, and also where necessary evacuation efforts. So Minister Lohr has heard from the federal government, and they will provision gear out of the Highlands National Park as an initial step. The federal government is in charge of plowing the roads inside the national park. So they have big, heavy gear, and it will be helpful. But of course, they're also plowing in the park as well, but they're going to do what they can. And we've seen in the past, and we've certainly been a beneficiary of kindness in the past from our neighboring provinces. New Brunswick will be sending additional plow units with more operators to enable those units to operate 24 hours a day. They're going to do that for us, and if PEI can help, I certainly know they will. They're also digging out, but I know if they can help, they will. It's really heavy blowers and graders that we really need right now. We've been in contact with private plow contractors that are actively in the province already, and also in our neighboring provinces, and to help bring them in as well. But folks, no stone is being unturned when it comes to looking for plows and looking for people to operate them to get you plowed out. We are certainly doing all we can. We're throwing everything that we possibly can at this right now. But as you can appreciate, with this amount of snow and this type of snow where it's heavy and sticky, it's challenging. So it will take time, but it won't be for lack of effort for sure. If you have a plow or have a private snow removal business and you haven't already been in contact with your local public works teams, please reach out, and we'll try to look for ways we can work together and put you to work cleaning some more snow for us. So now is the time for everyone to come together to get us out of this as quickly as possible. Our first priority right now and always is the safety of those impacted. It's the safety of Nova Scotians. During events like this, every day, a couple of times a day, the province's emergency management team convenes a call with a number of relevant parties, and some of them are on the call with us today. But it includes provincial departments, municipal units, telecommunications companies, the power utility. Really, it's anyone who may have something to contribute or who can provide valuable information or answer questions to other participants. They're all on the call. That system was activated and has been busy this weekend. I've been on a number of those calls myself. We get far more accomplished when we're all on the same page, and I just want you to know there are a lot of good people working very hard to keep you safe. And a little bit of good news, I heard from Bob Robichaud that relief is coming. The weather pattern is finally starting to show signs of breaking down and is expected to start to move away from Nova Scotia today. And I know some areas the snow has finally stopped already. So please stay safe. Call and check on your neighbors. Listen to your local officials. Stay off the roads. The more we keep our roads clear, the easier it will be for our plows to get through them. I'll just close with a couple positive stories of neighbors helping neighbors that I heard just this morning. A gentleman in Cape Breton went on Facebook and offered drives to nurses to the hospital for their shift and helped a number of people. In Pictou County, I know one of our doctors snowshoed to the main drag where he was picked up and delivered to the hospital. Private plow operators across the province are jumping in to help their community. I heard a number of those stories. I heard the story about the Careys in Cape Breton who sprung into action and cleared off the roof of the local co-op. So people are stepping up to help, and there's lots of good people that are trying to get you cleared out. And through it all, EHS responded to over 500 calls yesterday, and I think they're in a range of over 300 so far today. It's really important that you continue to call 911 in case of emergency. They're still out there. They're still helping people. Life Flight is back up and running. We will get through this, and we will do it together. So thank you for being here. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you for that, Premier. Before we go to questions, I'll invite Mark Peachey, Chief Engineer from Public Works, to provide a little update. Go ahead, Mark. Mark, I think you might be muted.
Can we unmute him from here?
I think we're trying. Perhaps what I'll do is skip along and invite Paul Mason to provide an update for Nova Scotia's Emergency Management Office, and then we'll come back to Mark. How's that sound? Let's go to you, Paul.
Great. Thank you, Premier and Heather. I'd like to provide a brief update on some of the work that's been happening at NSEMO with our partners across the province in the lead up to and in response to the significant winter storm. First, allow me to say we're very fortunate to have Bob Robichaud in Environment and Climate Change Canada embedded with us here at our Provincial Emergency Management Office. With the benefit of his expertise and advice, we began monitoring the impending storm last week and shared this important weather information with all municipalities and our critical infrastructure partners to help them plan and prepare in advance of the storm. We are in ongoing conversation in the days leading up to an event with our municipal and other partners whenever large events such as these occur. We have briefings in advance to let them know we are planning to activate our Provincial Coordination Center and to let them know we are here to help coordinate support should they request assistance. We activated our PCC on Sunday morning as planned, and since that time we've had twice daily conversations with all those engaged and involved in the response effort to this event. The first line of defense in any storm is always our municipal partners. They are responsible for having an emergency management plan and administer the resources needed to support the response within their regions. Municipalities also have the authority to call a local state of emergency should they deem it necessary. I'd like to clear up a little confusion around states of emergencies and what it means. In our capacity, we coordinate access to additional resources if municipalities request assistance. This is part of our normal emergency management operations during an event. We don't need a state of emergency for that. What a state of emergency does is allow the governing authority to take actions that it might otherwise be considering, which might restrict one's civil liberties, such as restricting travel during a storm, or as was the case during the early days of the pandemic. At this time, CBRM and Escazone have declared local states of emergencies, and that is appropriate. The storm is still very active and intense in those regions, as well as the rest of Cape Breton. Other parts of the province were impacted to a lesser degree or are already dealing with the recovery, so a provincial state of emergency is not required there. No matter what part of the province you may live in or what phase of the storm you may be experiencing right now, NSEMO is working across government with local municipalities and our partners on this response and supporting requests for assistance when we receive them. We've been in touch with our neighboring provinces, private contractors, and our federal partners. It's an all-hands-on-deck response for Cape Breton and Nova Scotians in this event, as in any event. Nova Scotians also have an important role to play, and that may be different depending on where you live and what you're seeing outside your window at the moment. We ask residents to monitor the local weather, limit travel, use generators and fuel-burning appliances safely, and check on their neighbors when it's safe to do so. Working together is the best response to any storm. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Paul. Let's check in with Mark and see if we have any sound from you yet.
Sorry about that, technical difficulties. Good afternoon, I'm Mark Peachey. I'm the Chief Engineer of Public Works. Staff at Public Works have been working around the clock to clear our highways and roads since the storm began. Our 100 series highways are open across the province as well as most trunks and routes. Right now, CBRM in Cape Breton is a top priority. We have moved equipment there from other areas across the province where conditions have improved. In total, the department has over 400 pieces of equipment and more than 1,000 people on the roads right now doing their best under these extremely difficult circumstances. We haven't seen a lot of road clearing operations like this since White Wand back in 2004. We have about 5% or roughly 20 vehicles out of service on a continuing basis given the magnitude of this storm. That being said, we've reached out to private contractors in our neighboring provinces, as the Premier indicated. We have received many generous offers of help, and we are very grateful. So far, we've hired 55 pieces of equipment, 32 of which are on their way or already working in Cape Breton. We know there are a couple dozen roads in the Northern District and northern of Cape Breton that have been closed. We will get to them as soon as we can. We may find more as we move forward since we have not been able to inspect all of the roads to this point. We have a big job in front of us. It's going to take some time to get those roads back to good condition, and we appreciate your patience and understanding. As the road conditions improve, please call 511 or visit 511.novascotia.ca for the latest road conditions. If you do have to go out and drive, give yourself plenty of time to travel. Make sure you have an emergency kit and leave plenty of space for snowplows to do their job. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Mark. And now we'll open it up to questions from media. I guess we'll start in the room with you, Jean, and then we'll go one question, one follow-up, and circle back through. Matt, I don't
Just
think
for
you had
questions.
prepared remarks
Okay.
there for questions.
This is a question for either the Premier or Mr. Peachey. You've requested help from New Brunswick. You said there was something. There was equipment coming. Can you elaborate on what kind of equipment, when they'll be here, and what they'll be doing?
Yeah, sure. Well, Mark, maybe you can kind of fill in the details, but we did reach out to New Brunswick and Prince Edward Island, and also the federal government for help. So the federal government will do some of the gear from the Highlands National Park. New Brunswick, I understand it's 3 pieces of equipment. Mark, you can give the details, but 6 operators and also a supervisor, so that gear can work 24 hours while it's here. But Mark, maybe what's the gear and when we'll be here?
Yeah, that's right, Premier. We've got 3 pieces of snow clearing equipment, double wing tandem vehicles with 6 operators, 1 supervisor, and we expect to have them here in the next day or so. They'll be able to do full snow ice clearing operations during this event.
Mr. Peachey, we're hearing from some municipal officials that one of the problems is a breakdown of vehicles. You mentioned the 5%. Is that the norm or out of the norm, or was there a particular problem with this storm?
It's higher than normal. I would say the magnitude of this event and the amount of snow that's out there that we have to push and move has taken its toll on our equipment. That being said, we do have mechanics all over the province that can jump into action to fix these as quick as possible. And
are there currently communities that are completely isolated because of this storm?
I'm not aware of any instances like that at this point.
Yeah, I think there's a couple road closures, but I'm not aware of any communities that are completely isolated. But certainly, I definitely understand, through Pictou County, Antigonish County, Guysborough County, and certainly into Cape Breton as well. There are lots of people in rural areas whose roads are impassable right now. So in terms of entire communities, I'm not aware of any, but certainly I know that there's lots of families who are isolated, and we just ask them to be patient. We've seen a number of stories of kind of friends plowing each other out and people springing into action. I've certainly seen some pictures of some cow pass down roads, one lane down. But the Blue Noser spirit shines through, and we try to help each other. But there are certainly it will be days before some of these rural roads in particular are cleared.
John, I'll check in with your colleagues on the phones, and then we'll come back to you. Okay. So starting with Heidi Petracek with Global National. Go ahead, Heidi. One question, one follow-up, please.
Thanks so much. I just wanted to ask about efforts to check on what you could call vulnerable people, like people who are maybe stuck in their homes. Is there a concerted effort by the province to help those people get out?
Yeah, I mean, look, when we have events like this, and as I said, we've had a few of them here in the last little while, but it's really friends and neighbors looking out for each other. That's kind of the first line of defense, as it were. Municipalities are a little closer to communities, have a good understanding of where people live, which families, and who. So there's a network through there. But from a provincial perspective, I mean, and I know Suzanne's on the phone from from the Department of Community Services. But I mean, we try to be there with the programs to support, and we'll look for what's necessary to support those that are right there on the front lines doing things. But certainly, I think each and every one of us has an obligation to check in with those that we can and just touch base and make sure they're okay. And if they identify situations where they can't reach somebody or there's somebody in distress, then certainly reach out to the local officials.
Heidi, do you have a follow-up?
Yes, please. On another subject, there seemed to have been yesterday some kind of communication issue between CBRM and the province. CBRM thinking that perhaps the province, had to get back to them to kind of give the okay for the local state of emergency. What happened there?
Well, I'm not aware. I guess you'd probably have to ask the CBRM from their perspective. But I know that there's kind of ongoing training with municipalities on things like states of emergency. I believe that the CBRM team had been working with the province maybe through the fall and had some pretty intensive training on what a state of emergency, how it's triggered, what it is, and those types of things. But I would just say as a general thing that declaring a state of local or provincial state of emergency, it's not required to access resources or assistance. So I've heard a lot of kind of chatter around that. In fact, as I already noted, we as a province wrote to the federal government for support, and they're responding. A state of emergency wasn't required or necessary to do that. It's just kind of a human thing that you do. But a state of emergency does have an impact for sure. A state of emergency permits authorities to issue fines to people who are unnecessarily on the roads. It permits authorities to enter homes and buildings without a warrant, order evacuations, confiscate property, order assistance. These are pretty serious things that a state of emergency can do. But what a state of emergency does not do is get you a plow faster. What a state of emergency does not do is get a road cleared faster. So we know that yesterday CBRM declared a local state of emergency. They can absolutely do that. They don't need provincial approval to do that. We respect their ability to do that. But at the end of the process, I kind of wonder what they'll do with it. Will they do anything with it, or was it more of just a kind of a PR issue? Is kind of what I'm wondering. But I will say this: when it comes to the state of emergencies and incredibly important, powerful tool, we've issued those as a province before, for sure. But in this situation right now, as a province and the incredible team at the province was working hard, all weekend. They just rolled up their sleeves. They just got to work. They just got to work clearing roads and trying to keep people safe. That's what I'm interested in.
Great. And we'll move along then to CTV's Kyle Moore. Go ahead, Kyle, with your first question.
Yeah, thanks. Premier, you mentioned the province sending help to CBRM. Any idea how many plows, how many personnel, and when will they be arriving?
Oh, I don't think it's a question, Kyle, of someday somebody will get around to moving stuff and that it'll arrive someday in the future. I mean, that's just absolutely not true. The discussions between certainly the public works teams at the province and at the CBRM, those are ongoing. They happen all of the time. The moving of gear from other parts of the province, that's the kind of the unique part, and that's been happening all weekend. Gear's been moving all weekend to those areas that were most affected. So the efforts are ongoing. In the midst of the storm, look, people were out on the roads trying to clear roads in the middle of the storm, and some plows got stuck, because people were just trying to get out there and get busy. So the discussions at the operational level, those are intense and constant all the time. The support at the operational level of moving gear back and forth, it's happening all of the time. So in terms of over the next couple of days, we're today, tonight, and over the next couple of days, as the weather abides, as gear arrives from New Brunswick, that will be positioned somewhere. If the gear that's provisioned out of the Highlands National Park, obviously that's in Cape Breton, that'll be that'll be deployed in the most effective way. But I think, look, it's the public safety, the health and safety of Nova Scotians. That's what's front and center. And I won't let it stand any insinuation that anyone is waiting for anything to get to work on this. There is no waiting in situations like this. People get to work and they get it done, and it's happening, and it'll continue to happen.
Go ahead with your follow-up, Kyle.
And the mayor mentioned financial or asking for financial assistance today. I'm just wondering if the province plans to provide any financial assistance for, people who have damage or can't afford to get plowed out.
I'm personally not aware of any request for financial assistance. That doesn't mean that somebody hasn't been asked. It's very early days. I think that as a province, when you look at what we've dealt with through floods, through Fiona, through the fires, I think our track record shows that we act very quickly. We've rolled out very innovative programs, for lost food, for refrigerators and things like this, and other circumstances. And I'm sure that the team will assess that. And if there's something we can do, we will do it. The priority right now is keeping people safe and getting people plowed out, and that will be the focus. And then as we look for other opportunities to support Nova Scotians, I believe that our government has shown we do not hesitate when there are opportunities to support Nova Scotians, and this will be no different.
Moving along, we'll go to the Chronicle Herald and Frank Campbell. Go ahead, Frank.
Hello. Hi, Premier. So there have been some suggestions that the province's reluctance to call a state of emergency was because of funding either now or down the road that would go along with that. What do you say to that?
I haven't heard that suggestion, and it's an absolutely ridiculous suggestion.
Go ahead with your follow-up, Frank.
That's good for me. Thank you.
Okay, moving along. Short and sweet. I love it. Thank you. Moving along to All Nova Scotia, Brian Flynn. Go ahead, Brian. Brian, are you there? We'll come back to Brian. Moving along, we'll go to Corey LeBlanc with the Guysborough Journal. Go ahead, Corey. Corey, are you there? Looks like we've had a couple people fall off the line. Hopefully they'll rejoin. Moving along, we'll check in with Evan Taylor with Acadia Broadcasting. Go ahead, Evan.
Afternoon. I guess this is for EMO. The snowfall alerts weren't issued until the 4 p.m. Update from Environment Canada on Friday. Just wondering if that holds anything up on your end from your ability to alert Nova Scotians, as we're getting many reports that people felt unaware of the magnitude of this storm. So just wondering if you have any comments on delayed alerts for this.
Sure. I know we work very closely, as I noted earlier, with Environment Canada along with our other partners. We received our initial weather brief on this Thursday morning. We immediately shared that out with all of our municipal partners, CI partners, and so on and so forth, to kind of advise that this system was coming. Now, of course, those are earlier days, and the forecast hadn't firmed up to the level that it did as we moved through the weekend. We had further calls on Friday afternoon, Saturday afternoon, and then, of course, activated Sunday morning. The timing of the alerts that were sent out specifically by Environment Canada Friday afternoon, I can't speak to that because, of course, that is operated within their own purview. But we were working with them early and had reports out to our partners as early as Thursday morning.
Evan, go ahead with your follow-up.
Follow up just on the issue of plows that was touched on earlier. We've had some images and received reports of plows going down damaged. Just wondering if there's anything out there with this storm that's making that more frequent, or if this is just the usual to be expected numbers. Plows go down in storms, and that's what kind of happens.
Mark, do you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. The sheer volume of the snow would be a good contributor to that. We're having reports in areas where there's 8, 9, 10-foot snow drifts, and that will take wear and tear on the equipment. So I would say that we've had a little bit more downtime than normal in a normal storm.
Thank you.
Great. Moving along, we'll check in with Barb Sweet with the Cape Breton Post. Go ahead, Barb. Barb?
Sorry about that. I just had a little technical detail.
One question, one follow-up.
I'm sorry?
We're doing one question, one follow-up?
Yeah, yes, for sure.
A reverb happening.
Yeah.
I'll check back with you, Barb, and you can sort that sound issue out. In the meantime, we'll check in with Corey LeBlanc, the Guidesboro Journal. Corey, are you there? Okay, we're going to check in one last time with Barb Sweet, see if we can get that sound issue sorted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's just, we can hear you.
Go for it, Barb. We can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. My apologies. So, Premier, just going back to a comment you made there about CBRM, and you were wondering if they had done it for PR ploy. Are you firing a sort of a dig at them?
No, like these are serious issues. This is a serious storm. The state of emergency, it triggers certain things. And of the things that it triggers, obviously you can fine people who are unnecessarily out on the road, you confiscate property, you can enter properties. So, but what it does not do is speed up access to equipment. It does not get a road plowed any quicker. So I guess what I'm asking is what's the state of emergency being used for? Like, I'm not aware of any, in COVID times, I remember when Premier McNeil issued the state of emergency initially, there was actually a fine attached. If you wrote, you got a fine. Is that the case right now in CBRM? Is that what they're doing with the state of emergency that they've declared? Because if you're not doing anything with it, then why are you doing it, I guess is the question. But I would just say that, look, this is a serious storm. It's a very, very stressful time for everyone. It's a time when we should be pulling together to help Nova Scotians, and I think elected officials, community leaders have a responsibility to do their best to calm fears and anxiety and not stoke it. It's our responsibility as community leaders to do the best that we can for the people we represent and to try to protect them and to be frank and honest. But spreading misinformation or stoking fear is extremely harmful, and it's unfair to Nova Scotians. So I would just ask that everyone better consider the facts first in their approach on social media and stuff. I'm not a social media person. I don't follow social media, but I certainly have been alerted to the fact that there was a little bit of fear stoking on social media, that the province wasn't acting on something, and it just wasn't appropriate. So, but the question remains. I mean, the state of emergency is there, and what's being done with it, I guess.
Barb, your final question?
Yes, Premier, I'm interested to know, and I've been waiting to hear back from the federal government. But do you think, or would you recommend that the military come and help, as they have done in similar situations before, like I guess Fiona and Snowmageddon in 2020 in St. John's, Newfoundland?
Yeah, certainly. Thank you for that, because we obviously didn't hesitate to reach out to the federal government and ask for support. We wrote to them on the weekend. And asking for things like, heavy equipment to help with the snow removal. And I mentioned that, initial quick responses from the federal government was that they would work to provision equipment out of the Highlands National Park. The question still remains about what may be available on our military bases that we have here, what gear they may have available. Is it suitable? So those discussions are ongoing. But look, we do not hesitate to ask for help. I'm not somebody who is shy about asking for help. We've asked the federal government for help, and those discussions are happening. And the military is certainly under the domain of the federal government, and it's included in the ask as well.
Okay, before we come back to the room to wrap things up, I'm just going to quickly call on Matt Drover to give us a little update from the power outage restoration perspective. What are you seeing out there, Matt?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So as of right now, there are about 2,000 customers who still do not have power that we're working very closely with to get power back on as quickly as possible. The biggest challenges for us, similar to what everyone else has been talking about, are the massive amount of snow that's on the road and just getting access into our equipment. So we're working very closely with our partners on the phone and EMO directly to make sure that we can get our crews into the areas that have been affected, where the trees have come down on the power lines, removing those trees and definitely getting the power back on. We expect that the biggest outages, those that are affecting the most customers, will be back on later today. There may be some that will continue into tomorrow in the most hard-hit areas where it is difficult to get access. We're working very closely to get those back on quickly too.
Great, thank you for that, Matt. Mr. LaRoche, let's come back to you to finish things up.
Sure. Mark, I'm just wondering, in terms of what we're getting from Highlands National Park, what are we getting from them? What did we borrow?
So I don't know if Mark may not. I had a discussion with Minister Law, who had just gotten off the phone with his counterpart just previous. The discussion was around them provisioning what they can. So obviously they're using gear in the park to clear their roads. They're responsible for that. But that would be heavy snow removal equipment, blowers and graders and stuff. But we can get you more detailed what's happening there.
And can somebody talk a little bit about, like, what is the priority right now? Because you normally have a priority system for clearing during heavy snowstorm, but clearly this is above and beyond that. Maybe Paul Mason? No, who's with Public Works?
Mark Peachey.
Mark.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So our 100 series would be our number one priority. Then it goes out to our trunks and routes. And then we move over into our local roads and then into the gravel roads. So as I mentioned earlier, our 100 series trunks and routes are starting to shape up in relatively decent shape. The bulk of the work ahead of us now will be with the locals and the gravels moving forward. And as the Premier alluded, that'll be a number of days yet before we get those cleared out.
And Mr. Peachey, did you have any problems? Did your crews have any problems because people were out or that there were abandoned cars in their way? Could you talk a little bit about that?
It was noted that there were a number of people out over the weekend traveling, and quite commonly they were getting stuck in the ramps adjacent to exits or getting off the highway. So there were a number of vehicles out there. That does complicate things for our operators. They have no choice but to work around them. And then obviously those folks are stuck, so they need to get some help to get out. And our crews diligently work around them to provide the best service they can.
I wonder if any of our municipal partners would like to weigh in on that. If you would, just speak up. I'll take that as a no. Go ahead, Jean.
Go ahead, Premier.
No, thanks for all the teams that are out there working to clear the roads and clear people's pathways, and certainly to all of our first responders who've been busy all weekend and those making their way to their employment, whether that be in a healthcare facility or long-term care home or EHS or just working to keep communities going. Thank you for that. But we'll get through this. We'll dig out and we'll get through it. It'll take a little bit of time, but we'll get through this. That's the Blue Noser way, and I appreciate everyone's patience while we do that. Thank you.